Oops, turn that off, right?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Mindset Monday. Here we are. I'm Shelley Butler.
I'm Yves Doucet.
Yes,
Nope,
you are.
we're not wearing a headphone, so I forgot to speak to the mic.
I know, right? We're so used to always having our headset on. I always find we sound so much more professional with our headsets on. I don't know why. It's not necessary, is it?
I think it's like
Not.
no, the headphones are great if we're not in the same room, but we're in the same room,
We're in the
so
same
like,
room.
and we don't
Yeah,
have.
but I still find it sounds fantastic.
Well, we can put the headphones on then. That's okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's all good.
Don't worry about it.
What a magical Monday this is right now.
It's a magical Monday.
Yeah,
Mm. Why? What makes it so magical for you? Just because we're together?
yeah.
Yeah. Love being with my
Um,
BFF.
well, every like I don't know, like
Trying to
it's
get Katie Dwyer on to paint something in behind us because we know that this will just make her mad.
why would it make her mad?
Because it doesn't. She's be like, "Are you
Well,
serious?"
she should like
Has she reached out to you yet? I reached out to her after last Monday.
she told me you wanted something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think we should have like a Canadian one. We should have a US one.
Worldwide.
We should have like different flags for different times. We should have a UK one, an Australia.
Oh,
Like we sell in 80
eight
countries,
different
countries around
countries.
the world. What? And I love I'm a Canadian. I love being a Canadian. I think we should support each other. But like there are like wonderful people around the world, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe she'd make us a world map though. Like we have lots of space here. Maybe she should do that for us. A world map.
I don't know. I think we should bring. I don't
A
know.
Katie Dwera inspired world map.
But it would cost a fortune to get all those flags. Like I can hear Felicia already saying, "What the?"
Oh, well.
But anyways,
Let Katie make us a deal. She's a good friend.
well, what I don't like about like supporting only Canadians is like we're not the only people in the world. Like we are all interconnected. Like, have you ever thought of where a banana comes from and how many people touch that banana to bring it to your doorstep so you can enjoy this banana?
I know.
It's
I
like
know.
it's the truckers, the
Yep.
shipbuilders, the cargo people,
Yep.
the people pick the farmers, the pickers,
Yes. The
like and
planters,
the
yes.
grocers,
Yes.
like the distributors, like there's so many
Yeah.
hands, right?
Touching our
And if we
banana, right?
well, I wasn't
Maybe we
going to
have
I
gloves
was
on.
I wasn't going to say that.
All right. Well, I think you did.
Well, I
I think I just reinforced it. Stop touching our banana.
so stop touching our banana. So I think I,
I think we should honor our worldwideness as well. I picked backdrops, right? So Katie had sent me
yeah.
samples. So I picked backdrops that were good for podcasts because this room is only for podcasts. It's a setup as a podcast room. But having
There's nothing
having
wrong with a like a country flag. Like there's nothing wrong.
there's nothing wrong. Look at
It
this
it just
flag.
become
It's
it just
brilliant.
becomes wrong when you believe that you are in judgment on other countries,
Oh,
other cultures, other way of beings. It becomes wrong because you are elevating yourself because I'm Canadian, so therefore I'm better than other people. That's just like the ego playing. And
that's
that's
silly.
and we're gonna get into this conversation in a minute here.
Yeah.
That's just being stuck in your knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not leading your best life. That's
Mm.
being stuck in your knowing. And recently, I've been doing a lot of coaching, as you know, and
So much coaching. You have been doing
a
so
lot,
much
yeah.
coaching. Yes. Yeah. It's good for you, though. Good for you because so many people want so much more from you. So,
Oh, why do you say that?
well, just because of the people that I meet,
Oh, okay.
the people that are grateful. I mean, look at just even this
Oh, yeah,
morning,
beautiful,
from
right?
a friend, right?
Mhm.
That's saying, thank you for helping me grow into the person I am today. I'm so grateful. I know I think I probably at least tell you once a week, so you have the ability to listen to others and not only listen to others, but find the sweet spot, right? Find their talent, find their um find their ability to shine. And you're so good with saying, you know what, just let go of the rest. Just stop doing the stuff that's not bringing you joy. Just let it go. So
Well, thank you.
I love that. You're the one who really got us going on. If we put people into their talent, if we give them,
Hmm.
okay, you may have gone to school to do X, Y, Z, but we see that you're super talented and we see your eyes light up and how much joy you have doing this other thing. Just because you went to school for that doesn't mean you necessarily have to be in that. If at Dovico, this other thing brings you joy, let's move you over there.
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that, Shelley, because like yes, I used to go from like a skill set point of view. Now I don't do that anymore. It's more of a, and this young lady I was coaching last week, she won a coaching one session. I was fascinated by her project, so we spent like 4 or 5 sessions together or something. Forget. And the one thing I like, she wanted to get better at doing something. She wanted to become actually a coach, and she do like a session like I did with Beyond the Noise and stuff like that. So I was helping her out with that, and that didn't work out for her. And the one thing that worked out for her though, and that because I asked her, "What did you get from these sessions?" She says, "Well, now I'm waking up excited because I was waking up bored and drowsy and tired every day."
Mhm.
And so that's why I identified that what was missing in her life is waking up excited, waking up as if you were a young girl, like a young child, like a young boy. And who doesn't want to wake up every morning? So you asked me what's magical about today. Well, today I woke up excited.
Nice.
I woke up
Nice.
excited for today, right? And then I met this homeless person that I talked to a lot, and she asked me, "How was your Easter?" The last time we talked was at Easter. I said, "I don't know. I don't know because it's so far
That
away
was
in
a
my
long time
past,
ago.
right?"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I struggle to go back to that. I don't know. Like that's so far away in my mindset because what exists to me is like in the excitement of this present moment. And so I coach leaders. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And I used to identify skill set and now I identify mindset, right? So, and I got an opportunity. I need to tell you this, right? I'm going to
No.
share this with you. I got an opportunity to coach um, visualization to, I can't share who yet, but it's a New Brunswick. They're representing New Brunswick in a competition in the Canadians.
Wow. Look
Right?
at you.
I get shivers just thinking about it,
Yeah, that is so
right?
exciting.
And so mindset, like when you look at mindset, um, it's the one thing that either you're going to wake up or expecting something.
Hmm.
Like I have my to-do list, I have my task. You're going to get bored of that. You're going to get bored and you're going to wake up drowsy. But every single Monday, you wake up excited, don't you?
Oh my God, love a
Right?
Monday. Yeah,
Right? Me
never
too.
miss a Monday. They always laugh in my group, my workout group, because we
Yeah.
work out together at 6:15, and they're always, never miss a Monday, Shelley. I'm like,
Right?
no, never miss a Monday.
Never
Why
miss.
why would we do that?
So waking up excited, right? And you have this ritual that you do waking up. You have this ritual that you do
I
going to
do.
bed, right?
I do.
And waking up excited. So
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah, I think it's so important. We tend to do the same things over and over again. We expect life to get more boring as we go. That's just kind of our expectation. I think we watched our mothers, our fathers, our sisters, our brothers, and that are older than us, and life can be boring. Life can be very mundane. We have to take the opportunity, seize the opportunity of what excites you. I know for me, after I turned 50, I loved the birds. Not only did I love the birds, but I
Mm.
loved to identify the birds, even their calls. So when I know a cardinal is coming close, I can go to the back door because
Oh,
I
I
can
love
hear it.
that.
So I got really into it,
Mm.
and I got taught meditation with eyes open. And I can tell you, when I am eyes open, meditating with the birds, like there are sometimes my husband will come out and go, "Okay, you've been out here for 2 hours."
Wow.
And yeah, because it grounds me.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I bought myself a smart bird feeder for Mother's Day. And it was, I'm telling you, it was once I figured out how to set it up, it took me 24 hours to set up. But once I figured that out, it has been absolutely amazing.
I
It's created me to be
so
a little
so
more
what
excited and
happen
surprised.
what happens to people when somebody says, "Oh, I'm bored." I said, "You're not bored, you're going through a midlife crisis."
That's it.
You're going through
That's
a midlife crisis. And what happens, we go through midlife crisis and men go to the gym and maybe they switch girlfriends or something, or they buy a car. Women, they switch friends. They block people. That's what,
oh, I
just
don't.
generally speaking, we get like, we do. I'm just generally speaking, I'm just laughing at myself. But we get bored. It's because we expect the feeling. So we wake up and we say, I know how this day is going to go, and I know exactly how the feeling is going to go. And we change things in our lives from the outside because we expect the feeling to go away, right? We get a little shot of dopamine by finding something that's different.
Yeah, yeah. You
So
listen, when somebody comes to me, like you, the girl came to you
yeah,
and said, "I'm bored," I go, "Oh my God, let's go. You have self-awareness.
yeah, I
Let's
know.
go." If you're able to actually identify that you are bored, it is half the battle. It is half the battle. So many people just go on every day, expecting the world to happen for them, as opposed to for them to be
Ah,
in charge of
so
their joy.
you're right, because that's the beginning of leadership, becoming
Yes.
familiar with your mind, your body, your surrounding is the first job of a leader, I think, anyway. So
Oh,
that's
so
that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
let's do it. So grab your telephone, grab this link. This is the way for you to have a conversation with
Trent
me.
put the link.
Of course,
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
Trent is absolutely amazing.
Good morning, Dion. Good morning,
Good morning,
Felicia.
Dion.
Yeah. Trent, good morning.
Yes,
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, so here we are. I hope that you are going to join in this conversation with us because so many people have an idea of what a leader is based on their past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Based on your experience of
based on your
being
experience,
led in a certain way. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So I want people to be aware of um, how they feel in their bodies when we talk about when
A
you look
leader.
at this,
Oh, what a great question.
right? I want
When you say the word leader, how does that
How
feel?
does it feel? Where are
What a
you
great question.
feeling that
I
in your
wish you
body?
could.
How are you landing
Yeah,
with
love that.
that in your body? Because when I talk about leadership, I see the cringes. I see the concern in people's faces. So
What what do you feel when you say the word when you hear the word leader? Where do you feel that that in your body?
I was very fortunate in my past. I didn't have very many leaders that weren't that I didn't admire. I was very
Mm.
fortunate in my life. And I often wonder if I was just oblivious to it because I was that type of person where um, I was my own leader, you know? So, when they gave me boxes of mousse at Shoppers Drug Mart to put on the shelf, I wanted all my stickers to be beautiful. I wanted my shelf to look gorgeous. You know what I mean? So I think I've always been a bit of a leader of my own life. And even if that leader was a bit of an ass, I don't know. I didn't really drag that around with me. I had excellent leaders. Now, there are sometimes you've heard me say, that leader taught me everything I needed to know about not being that type of leader, right? So sometimes leaders came into my life
Hmm.
because I didn't want to be that leader. That came into my life to be so made sure I wasn't that type of leader. So let's move on here. So remember how that leadership feels when you talk about that. Where is that in your body? Are you feeling angst? Are you feeling anxiety? Are you feeling a warmth? So let it go and just let your mind be super open when it comes to this. So in a conflict with a coworker, what is the job of a leader?
And have you experienced a conflict with a leader?
Yeah.
Have you experienced a conflict as a leader? Have you experienced a conflict with a leader? So I have done both. Yeah. And I have to say that in a conflict with a leader, I expect the leader to show up with non-reaction. I expect the leader to listen, to not kind of destroy me, right?
Yeah.
I put a lot of confidence and maybe like I was listening to what you were saying, and you have this way of dealing with like putting people. You don't put people on a pedestal. That's what I've learned from you. Like you never put people on a pedestal. Remember with Robin Sharma, even Baron Baptiste, and when you're going to experience Joe Dispenza next,
Yeah.
I'm,
All of them. I don't. Yeah. No,
you
I
don't
don't
put
do
them
that.
you don't put
Yep.
them on a pedestal. I do, right? But then I
Yep.
have an expectation of a certain type of leaders, and in the past, I have been disillusioned, discouraged, and even destroyed by reaction from a leader, right? They have so much power on me, over me.
Did.
They had so much power over me,
Yeah.
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 And so I was always under the impression that a leader would be like my dad, like in a way, like or my mom, even more than my dad in a way, because my mom never like she always arose above the conflict. She was always
Mm.
there.
Yeah.
She would stand between me and the conflict. I
Yeah.
remember like very early on as a child, my mom would say if we would fight with the siblings, she would just come between, and she's like 90 pounds soaking wet there.
Yeah.
She's not a
Yeah.
big girl, right? It was Happy Mother's Day, mom. Ooh.
Ooh.
And then she would just stand in front of us and say, pick on me, hit me, right? Kind
Yeah.
of thing, pick on me.
Yeah.
And, she would rise above. She knew there is no way I was going to hit my mom. There's no way I was going to be mad at my mom. And it worked every single time. It was just, okay, well, like bite my tongue,
Yeah. Yeah.
turn around, I'd go
Yep.
back, right? That was, to me, in a conflict with a leader, I expect that. I expect that zenness, that maybe that's why I look for people that are calm and people that are above their emotions and above their attachment to themselves and above things. Maybe that's why, but that's what I expect from a leader. And
Mm-hmm.
you're that kind of leader, by the way. I
Thank
you
you.
you you rise above the attachment and the emotions, and yeah, and I'm surrounded with people like that. I mean, in my life, my family, my sisters, my son, my daughter, they do. It doesn't make. I'm not saying they're perfect. Like I'm imperfect, so like I don't expect them to be perfect. I learned that from you too. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just talking myself into realizing that leaders are human.
Leaders are absolutely human. Unfortunately, most leaders believe they needed to know. They need to know all the answers, right? So in that meeting, they need to
Yeah.
be the one to make the decision. They need to be the one to have more knowledge than the rest of the people, right? So, we know that that's not true. That is just a fallacy. But I also know that what's in your mind, what's in your heart, how you're feeling is your truth. So a leader needs to certainly let their ego go, but they need to find out what exactly is the conflict, right? What is the conflict? Because the other person, the other coworker may not even really know. So the one thing for me in a conflict with a coworker, what is the job of a leader? The job of a leader is to take a deep damn breath and to look in the eyes of your coworker and say, I am so sorry. I
Ooh,
am
yeah.
so sorry
This is a
because what you believe is your truth. And once you say, I am so sorry, then you can move on. You can absolutely move on. It's a very Canadian thing, maybe, to do, saying, I'm so sorry. But bottom
And
line,
it's
if there
isn't
is a
that a great?
conflict,
I think it is Canadian, and it is appropriate to
it is
say sorry as a
absolute.
leader. To say sorry allows you to come here in the present moment,
Yeah. Because
and
everybody's expecting to hear, what the hell is wrong with you? And you are fired. Right? Especially if the conflict is with their leader. I
yeah,
just had a conversation with one of my coworkers, and we had a bit of a conflict. It was a year ago, um, maybe not quite a year ago, but it was not a great relationship a year ago. I was oblivious. I had no idea until I received the text.
mm,
It took me probably a week before I could sit in front of that
I remember.
coworker.
I remember that.
But that coworker to this day continues to tell me how I was able to change her way of thinking about leadership in that moment because I was able to say, I'm so sorry instead of saying you're fired. The thing is I don't know. I don't know, but what I needed to do is create clarity so we could actually either move back into a relationship setting. Because the thing
No,
is
no. How did you get there? How did you get to the place that
well, I have a great
you
coach.
wanted to fire that person, and but you don't. You don't.
Well,
You rise above it.
it took me a week. It took me a
Oh,
week.
okay.
It took me a week. I wrote every morning. I wrote the text out, what she sent me.
Hmm.
I wrote the text out. So I actually, by the end of that week, I had defined. I could probably say aloud, like I memorized that nasty text that I received. Um,
Hmm.
it had nothing to do with me. So every day when I wrote the text out in my journal and I
Yeah.
started my day with that, every day it separated me, right? Because I was that. I was the text. I was the anger.
Hmm.
I was the madness. I was the hatred,
Like
right?
I've been there. I'm listening to it. Like I know exactly,
What you're talking, yeah,
exactly what you're
you
talking
got the
about.
nasty text,
Yeah.
right?
You're like you're making stories up about what it means or what it doesn't mean or whatever. You're making stories about like you can't stop thinking about the stories that you're making up in your head.
Well, of course, and it starts off. Now I blame her, right?
Yeah.
Now I go back and I go, "Whoa, that how dare you," right? And I blame everybody else that was associated with that. I was defined in that text. But day
Wow.
3 of writing out that text, right? I started to become a little bit more separated from it. So by day 7, that her and I were going to sit down and have a discussion about that conflict,
Yes.
I no longer associate it with that text at all.
Mm.
I had nothing to do with that text. It was all about her.
Right.
Now, what was interesting, it wasn't about blaming her about the text. Bottom line is that's her feelings. So
Right.
there's nothing more I could do but get in front of her and say, I am so sorry.
I think it's like if you remember that the experience you have with a leader
Mm-hmm.
bases like if you're carrying that forward with you
Mm-hmm.
in your next job, your next leadership, your next relationship, and then that's how you see eventually that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what you're saying. Rising above, if the other person starts to rise above the interaction or the conflict by saying sorry and becoming aware that they're making stories up
Yep.
in their heads, but
Yep.
taking the time, creating a space for it, you have the opportunity to rise above it and then do something that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm this is what I'm hearing. So if you do the opposite of what you want to do, well, you're in for a surprise.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. It's my new discovery about instead of looking for opportunities, I look for surprises, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really great story. Thanks for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these,
Let's go into it.
yeah,
Yeah. Work to remove the barrier. So, in a conflict with coworkers, what is the job of a leader? Work to remove the barrier so communication can happen. Absolutely. If you aren't confident or comfortable dealing yourself, then I would say the job of a leader would be to facilitate with you and the coworker,
if you're confident or comfortable dealing yourself,
dealing with it yourself,
oh, yeah,
probably.
I would say the job of the leader would be to facilitate with you and the coworker. Okay.
The job of a leader is to let ego go. Absolutely. To open their ears and mind. Yes, that is
Yeah,
100% true.
I love that one because I think for me, if you are leaning into the ego and saying, I know what you're supposed to do, I know how you're supposed to act, what you're doing there is you're not meeting the person where they are. In other words, you're not providing the right environment or the right coaching or the right words in for that person to learn something. You're not meeting that person where they are. You're meeting them above them. You're saying you're supposed to act like this. So you kind of you become you think you're like better than them.
Yeah.
That's what the ego does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the employee will know that. The coworker will know that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Focusing on solutions, not blame, to rebuild collaboration and
That
trust.
is so difficult though. Like
It
it's a I'm telling you, this is a practice.
it takes
Like I take a lot of
it
practice.
takes a lot of
Like I
work.
like
Even
it took
I've
a
woven in.
like,
Yeah,
like
it
it's
took
staring
me.
like staring at the birds for like 2 hours. It takes that kind of thing. Yeah.
And that is the thing. It's something that even I talk about an awful lot, right? People think that they can run from one disaster to
You
another.
can.
They can run
Yeah.
from one meeting to another. They can be, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
You absolutely can't. The recovery is what humans really need to work on. In the recovery, in the meditation, in the quieting of the mind, in the exercise, in the sleep,
Yeah.
is truly when we learn and we're able to kind of let things go, if you will.
I like one of the things that Joe Dispenza I've learned from him and with Baron Baptiste. One of the things I say is stay in the pose until like the feeling that you have goes away.
Yeah.
Stay in the pose. If you're in reaction, in guilt, in the knowing, in the ego, stay in the pose. Stay quiet. Look at the birds. Stay in chair pose. Stay in until you are not in the pose. It may take a week, but don't get up from that pose. Don't get up from that doing until you are risen above that emotion that you have.
So
And once you
true.
can rise above the emotion that you have, if you can be given that time, because not all bosses, not all leaders will give you that time to rise above it. Some people will say, no, rush to work right away, get over your emotions, stop crying, that kind of stuff that we used to
Yeah.
hear around the
Yeah.
house, right? If you are giving that opportunity, if you can ask for that opportunity to just stay, don't, you will be able to do something that you don't want to do. And in that, there'll be a surprise for you at the end. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really a beautiful surprise.
And it doesn't even need to be a hard pose.
No,
So
no, no,
doing that
no,
twist,
no. You don't have to be chair pose for a week there. You can lie down, look at the birds, buy a bird feeder, go look at the birds like that. Yeah, yeah. No, it doesn't need to be hard. It needs to. You need to stay
you
though.
just need to be able
Yeah.
to stay. So I can remember when I went to Baron Baptiste level 1 and I didn't understand what he was doing, but he would make fun, right? Or kind of slander a little bit, if you would, everybody who was doing, like, he would ask for us the simplest of pose and people would
Mm.
be in handstands,
Right,
right? People
right,
would
right.
be
That
in
would be
back
me.
bends, right? People would be trying
You
to,
laugh at me.
well, people were trying to show him that, and he was like, look,
You're such a good yogi.
and he wouldn't. He would actually say, "You're not a good yogi.
He would say that.
You do not need to impress me.
Yeah,
The fact that you can be in a handstand when I have told you to do an inversion doesn't mean it needs to be a handstand every time.
yeah.
When I've told you to lay in child's pose and you're trying to impress me by, back bending, wheel, 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 it doesn't impress me, right? He'd have to 48 hours. It took him 2 days to convince people that he just really needed them to forward fold.
It's yes. I
It
remember
was
that.
it
It's
was
yeah.
it was absolutely crazy for me how long it took these yogis to actually take a little off of it. It took him, how many times did he have to say,
Oh my god.
it doesn't impress me.
It's so I was such.
It doesn't impress me.
I'm still in the ego once in a while, so it touches a nerve for sure.
Sorry. Sorry.
I know it's good. Like it's good to be humble. Like
Right?
I yeah,
But
I
it's the
get it.
same thing. It's the same thing with work, right? So if
It
somebody
is
continues to deliver you the 10-page documentation over the feature, and the more words they can put on the paper is supposed to impress you, in actuality, it needed a paragraph. It's never going to impress you. How many times have you told people here, project managers that we used to have, the 10-page document doesn't impress me? If you can tell me in a sentence, what this feature does, that will impress me.
Simple.
But they continue to deliver you
The
the
10
10-page
page.
document. So it's right.
Interesting. Hmm.
Help find ways forward from the conflict. Not all conflict is bad and can be quite productive.
Yeah.
Mm,
There's a, well, like,
mm, I don't know. I personally,
not
um,
all conflict is bad. I agree with that.
most definitely, if
So
they're
most of the conflicts we have are within ourselves.
pushing a little push back and forth, like we're talking about, do we price the calendar or do we not price the calendar? Decision was made to price the calendar, right? It is a bit of a situation here at Dova Co. where we're kind of like, ooh, should we price the calendar? Maybe we shouldn't price the calendar. We could consider that a conflict. I don't consider that a conflict. I consider that an unknown. We don't know the future, but the one thing we do know is that if it's wrong, we'll change it. Like it's not that big.
But that could have created a conflict. It's my belief over your
Well,
belief.
it did
Yeah.
create a
Yeah.
conflict. And
Yeah.
until Wednesday, until we got in front of there and went, you know what? We don't know. We
We
don't
don't
know.
know.
But we're going to be open to it.
Right.
And I can guarantee you that our ego will not get in the way, that if we're wrong, we will change that decision.
Yeah. The most important thing is being surprised and delivering something and looking for the surprise instead of looking for the opportunity. In other words, looking to be right. Like if you're looking for the opportunity, you're looking to be right, but look for the surprise. So it doesn't matter if you're building a feature for a product or if you're delivering a service, look for the surprise. Where are you surprised? Where is
I
the
love that. Yeah.
so where's the surprise? Where is it unexpected? If it's expected, then you're predicting your future, and you can only predict your future with your past, so you're stuck.
Yeah. If
Look
the
for the
conflict
surprise.
keeps you in the focus, I'm okay with it. If the conflict is if you're not doing your work and you're going to write me documentation about why I shouldn't price the calendar when we already are going to
Well,
price the calendar, I don't.
you
Yeah.
told me something today,
What?
and I forgot the exact words, but you said what you're looking for, what we're looking for at Dovico, and in your personal relationships, actually, and I do the same thing. You're looking for awareness of that you are in a conflict. So
Oh,
you're
the
working,
battle.
like,
Yeah.
are you working on yourself, or are you trying to work on being right? There's
Yeah.
a difference,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're saying, no, I think I see that I want to be right. Well, now you're working on the conflict that you have within yourself,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's is like, if you look at the definition of meditation, is to become familiar familiar with your body and your mind. Oh, and being okay with the fact that you're in a conflict.
Yeah.
All conflict comes from you in some of you,
Suffering
like
is
some sort of injustice that you've discovered, or like
yeah.
if you've had an
The wrong
injustice.
you're trying to right.
Yeah, you've been, abused by a leader, or treated a certain way from a leader. You're expecting a certain treatment. That's a conflict within you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely
And if
is.
you're a leader, right, then if you're expecting a coworker or a worker to act a certain way, well, that's a conflict within you. So becoming aware or familiar with that you are in a conflict is the work, and then doing the opposite of what you want to do, going on the edge, if you want to call it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
To listen without
Oh my
judgment
God, that's
is
my
it's
favorite.
my favorite. Yeah, to listen without
Oh,
judgment is huge and it takes practice. Spend time to try to truly understand the root of conflict. No sense trying to solve the surface level issue. You will get a surface level
so
solution.
true. So
So good.
a
I
bunch of
love that.
wise people.
Yeah, yeah, really, really good. Really, really good. Yeah. Enjoy. Okay. Oh, what is the second job of a
So
leader?
if the first job of a leader is to find out where the conflict is, the first job of a leader is to find out, to rise above the
Mm,
conflict, right?
mhm.
To see the opportunity or the surprise. What would be the second job?
So if you didn't get a chance to chime in, oops, I could probably, do you know what? I can do it this
Hey,
way
Cheryl,
too. That's my sister.
sister, my sister's there too. Hi, Diane.
Our sisters are watching.
What is the best compliment? That's it right there.
Use your phone,
Okay.
capture it, and come and join us. Yes, come and join us. What is
So
the second job of a leader?
so it's the first job of a leader, we kind of summarize, is to become aware that you're in the ego, aware that you're in conflict with yourself, aware that you're in the known,
Yeah.
right? That's the first job of a leader. Once you've become familiar with that and you've written down 15 times in your journal, I'm in a conflict, I'm in a conflict, I'm in a conflict, and you stayed there long enough. It could have taken you a day, it could take you a week, it could take 2 weeks, but you were determined to rise above it, right? And
Yep.
do the opposite of that.
Yep.
What would be the second job of a leader?
Hmm. Care. But
What
I
so what did you do?
but I do
What was
think
yours
this
when
is the
you
first
showed up?
job.
Well, so once you rose above your own conflict in this situation you were explaining to us,
Yes.
what did you do next? What was the second job?
Well, I had to get rid of the feeling of anger. There was no
So once you
way.
got that, you got
Yeah.
rid of that was the first job.
Yeah.
First job is to become present, get rid of the
Yeah.
feeling.
First time
So you did
to
that for a week, took a
unidentify
week,
myself. It took
took
me
a
a whole
whole week.
week. It took me a whole week.
Okay.
Now I
What's the
went,
second job?
let's meet.
So what's the second job when so it's like to create some sort of
Now it's to create the collaboration
and what happened then?
without my knowing,
Okay.
without my
Yeah.
ego, right?
And what happened after that? So let's meet. So you
Yeah.
met, you did something you didn't
I'm
want to do.
so sorry.
Oh, you apologize. Okay.
Yep, I'm so sorry. See, I said I'm so sorry before I even heard why she was upset. See,
Okay.
remember, I don't even know at this point. I don't even know why she was upset. So I needed to clear the air.
What does that do to the other person when you do that? When you say I'm sorry?
Well, in this particular
Like you have the power.
case, because she believed she was going to be fired, uh, and I have the power.
Well, that would be a surprise for her.
Exactly. Surprise. Um,
Hmm.
so now got to, I had the opportunity to listen. I had the opportunity to be there without judgment.
What happened to her, do you think?
Oh,
When you were
it's
when you were there, you apologized and then
yeah,
you came and you started, okay, now I have an opportunity
yeah.
to listen. What happened to her?
So as she told the story of why she sent the message in the first place, of what she carried with her, and she carried that anger and that disillusion for a really long time with her, right? She went to bed
Really?
with that night after night,
Wow.
before she got the
Hmm.
courage up to send the text,
Yeah.
right? So what happened to her is she became uh, one of the most gracious Dovagonians, to tell you the honest truth. She was open to be in discovery of what we're really trying to do here.
Did
She
it get
was
her? Did it get that person to move?
absolutely, absolutely.
Huh.
Not only does she deliver, but she wants to understand what we're doing here. She wants to be in the focus of workplace wellness. She wants to be a leader within us. And she is, and she absolutely is a leader within us. Um, and she also expressed to me she'd like to have her friends that are out there in the workforce to bump up against a leader, like myself, which I
Oh,
was
wow.
so gracious. Yeah, I
Hmm.
felt so confident in, because people need to have a new view, right? So her past view brought her here to us. And so her thoughts about leadership wasn't necessarily what we were trying to portray, right? So she needed to get past the point of, this is what a leader is. And instead of solidifying what she believed a leader is, now she's in discovery of
Okay.
who Shelley Butler is, not a CEO, what the CEO is. Now she's able to be open of who's Yves Doucet, who's Shelley Butler, who's Diane Doucet, who's
So when you become present to the person, because that's the first job, I'm trying to describe this in a few words, right? What happens to the second job of a leader? Once you become present, you're aware of your emotions, you're aware of your conflict, you stay, you get rid of them, then you show up and you say, okay, we're going to meet now, right?
yeah.
W- that job next is to listen. It's to create what are you creating when you're doing that? When you're actually listening and caring, what are you actually doing there?
Well, we're creating a sense of belonging, community,
What
right?
happens to her or that person that's on the other side?
Well, now she feels involved. Now she feels that she's with us. Now she feels that she has
She's
someplace
heard.
to land. She not only is she heard, but she knows now she can say anything she needs to say so she doesn't take it to bed with her. Right? She can she yelled, she hollered, she, she was able to say her truth of how she felt,
Yeah.
right? I didn't have to dissuade any of that. Like, I didn't have to say, yeah, but this is why I did it this way. Or it wasn't about that. It wasn't about me trying to make myself right. It was about simply listening to her. That's what social connection is about telling people their deepest, darkest truths, and making sure that that other person on the other side got
Okay.
to know you a little bit more. That's all that
So
is. When we belong and we have community, man, oh man, what a comfortable feeling that is.
So when you're out of your knowing,
Yep,
because a knowing would be your ego, your anger, your judgment. These are all knowings,
yep,
right?
yep.
When you're out of that, you stared at the birds, the wonderful bird feeder. Get it at Amazon dot whatever. When you're doing that for hours and hours on end, 40 hours, right? And you're okay. Now I can see myself. I've become familiar with who I am, and you show up for that coworker, that employee. Now your job is to be there for them and listen. Like actually listen without the mind.
That's it.
Actually listen without the ego.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then something and then okay.
yeah.
Good.
So a great leader, before they go on to any meeting, is actually going to take a few deep breaths,
Mm.
check in with themselves, right? Every class that you, workout class, yogi class, anything that you go to like that, they're going to ask you to check in with yourself if it's a great teacher, right? How is it feeling in your body? How are you, right? Because they want you to be here. They want you to be aware, not in your to-do list.
This is so contrarian to what you see on TV. I'm looking at this Netflix special called Running Point.
Mhm.
And it's about this woman leader who it's family oriented. And they own a basketball team, a professional basketball team,
Mhm.
and all they do is yell at people all the time.
Mhm.
This is what the impression we have of leaders: people yelling and yelling and yelling. Yeah, there's a soft
My
spot
husband doesn't work on construction sites anymore.
because of yelling.
Because of yelling.
Wow.
Well, it for some reason, it's a very toxic environment. So it's about the ego, right? It's about, I know how to lay that better than you. I know how to pour that better than you. I know how to hammer that better than you. I know these things more than, better than you, right? It comes from this place of knowing.
Wow.
Got to be really, yeah, it's a really toxic environment. We don't want any of that. We're not looking for any of
No.
that. We want so he come home not too long ago, and he's working with this young fella, and this young fella has been working construction forever, and he said, I have learned more in the last 2 weeks working with Leonard than I have
Wow.
in the last
Yeah.
3 years that I've been working, construction, right? Because Leonard, through our way of being, through our
Oh,
way of
yeah.
teaching, me taking these things home, he understands that there can be collaboration at work.
Yes.
There can be
Yeah.
community and
Yeah.
belonging at
Yes.
work.
It
It
doesn't mean you don't say like, okay, pick up the garbage or pick up the stuff or pick up after do a good job. It doesn't mean that. It means that you say it in a way that's like
kind.
kind, yeah.
Yeah, what happened to kindness? People
Oof.
love that and they'll actually come to work. Okay, we got to get on here. Here we are, a second job, a leader, care, but okay. But I do think that this is the first job. Listen, to be present. We
But
talked
okay, so
about
let's go
that.
back to that. Care. You cannot care if you're in your head. It is the first job, but the problem is the first job of a leader is to get rid of the emotion you have. You're not caring if you're thinking about yourself. You're not caring if you're stuck in your ego, in your knowing, in your fear,
Yeah.
in your anger.
Yeah.
So I agree that should be the first job. The problem is how do you get there?
You've got to really take care of yourself. That's what I was
Oh,
saying to you before any meeting. You got to
yeah,
check
take
that
care of
ego at
oh
the
yeah.
door. I need you to sit down. I need you to take 10 deep breaths. I need you to go and have that paper in front of you and write down what you are attached to. Because the thing is if you go into that meeting attached to something
Yeah.
and it doesn't come out that way, you're not going to listen to anybody. You're going to be in judgment of them all. It's not good. It's not good.
I was coaching this young man who's a business owner and a very successful business owner, and he was saying, "I have trouble when I get home because my wife keeps telling me like I'm not good enough. That kind, like the to-do list gets there, and I get angry and all that stuff." And he said, "Well, why don't you just before you get home, I'll send you a little meditation on the feeling that you're looking for." So he described the feeling he's looking for with his family and his wife, right? And he described those families. So I did a meditation for him. I said, I want you to close your eyes and just listen to this meditation for 5 minutes before going into the house,
Right?
right? So you can actually remember the reasons and the feeling that you're expecting. And then what happens to the brain is it starts looking for that feeling.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing with him is exactly that. Become aware that you're not in a good spirit. You
Yep.
just finished work. A lot of things happen
Yeah.
during, and he's in construction, so like a lot of yelling, a lot of facing, like unhappiness. Get rid of all that, and then what is the feeling that you're looking for before you get into that house?
Hmm.
And like it's like now he's telling me stories about he's playing guitar with his daughter, and he's like the whole his whole nightlife changed
Oh,
just because of that,
beautiful.
right?
Beautiful.
So yeah, it's important to care, but first you have to understand that you're not there. You're like you're not there, so how can you care? Like you're running around like a chicken without a head, and you're
Yes.
thinking that shows up as caring. Everybody else is looking. I don't know what you're on, but I'm going away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
it's recovery is huge.
mm,
It's the biggest part of it. To mentor, inspire, empower others to take initiative, develop their strengths and step
mm.
into leadership roles themselves. Yeah, yep. I agree. The second job of a leader is to promote an environment where other leaders emerge. Nobody can lead alone. I believe this is absolutely huge, right? So being a leader means that you are creating other leaders, right? It's about supporting the people that are surrounding you so they can be the leader that you expect. Because when you retire, when you leave, you want that legacy to live on,
Okay,
if
so
you will.
this is such interesting. The Miracle on in the Andes. Remember that book?
I do.
Yeah, there
Oh,
is no leader. Like if you look at a flock of fish or a flock of
there is a
birds,
leader, but there's a lot of leaders. So another
we're
leader will
all leaders.
emerge.
Our
Yes.
job
Yeah.
is to create leaders, so we're all leading.
So we're all
Leading.
leading.
If
Yeah.
you're
And you don't
frust,
want them
if
to be the leader of the knowing because that
right,
would give them so much anxiety and so much
right,
stress. So you're trying to, that's what you and I are doing
mm,
consistently. We're trying to create.
everybody's a leader. Lead. Do something.
Yes,
Yeah.
but leaders that aren't going to make themselves sick, leaders that can
Mm,
sit in front of the birds for 2 hours and not be guilty because
yes.
they didn't write the document,
Love it.
you know? Okay, do the opposite of Trump. Yeah, well, hey, take an action and then be open to learn. Take an action
To
and
be
then be
present.
open to learn. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, to be present,
That
of
would be
course.
the first one for sure. Be present. Yeah. That would be the first thing. Presence is
Present.
becoming familiar with your emotions.
Yeah,
So,
presence is
yeah.
huge, and listening creates trust, right? So if you
Listening.
can
Yeah.
if you can listen to others without giving your idea or without expanding on their idea, right? So you may want to, but as a leader, I would always suggest I would bite the side of my cheek, so I wouldn't try to up them on their
Mm.
idea
No. Yeah.
or expand on their idea, but I would allow them to express their idea, and then I would not only give them the time to express their idea, but I would push them to let their teammates know about their idea.
So what you're describing there, when you allow a person to listen to, if you to be heard, you're actually what you're doing is you're creating presence within that person.
Yeah.
You're bringing that person there,
Yeah.
right? So first, become present
Yep.
as a leader. Second, create presence in the other person. That's
Yes.
what you're doing by, like just say what you need to say. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
That like we're gonna have a conversation, and then all this stuff is gonna come up, and then that allows them to get away from their emotion, become present. Now they can do something. Now they can act.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mm.
Agreed wholeheartedly. Yeah, so this is beautiful. Should a leader look for answers or the surprise? So we
This
are yeah, we're down to our yeah, we're done. But
well,
talk
I
to us a little bit about the surprise.
Well, I was for years I was looking for the opportunity. Where's the opportunity in business? Where's the thing I should do?
Yeah.
Now I'm really focused on the surprise. This young lady was like that was coaching. She led me onto this like last week, and she said, I want to be excited. Waking up excited means that you're like remember you when you're a young girl or young man, and you woke up excited about that trip, you were excited for the surprise.
Yeah.
Like at Christmas,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not the gift, it's the surprise.
It's the
So
surprise.
if you wake up and you go to a meeting and you first become present, then you become you let the other person becomes present. Look for the surprise, because life will give you what you're not expecting,
Yeah.
right? And it's not in the thinking of the answer that you want. It's not in the opportunity. Look for the surprise,
Yeah.
and then lean into the surprise. Where are you surprised? I have surprises every day. Like there's not a day that I'm not surprised. Oh, okay, wasn't expecting that. If you're expecting it, well, you're living in your past. You're trying to predict the future with the past.
Yeah.
Well, that's not living. That you're not. That's when we get bored and we have a second. Oh, now I have to do something. I have to buy a new car or buy a new watch or whatever it is. Like you clothes Lululemon pants or something. Do a career shift. Be excited, right? And look for the surprise. There's a difference, and in the surprise, there's an opportunity. Always,
Always,
always.
always.
Yeah.
And this reminds me a little bit of, there's sometimes at Dovico as we put together a feature and we expect the
Mm-mm.
feature to look one way. When it comes out, it looks a different way, right?
Right.
And we see some of the conflict that can actually happen. But my job is actually to listen to the conflict, listen to the debate, and see what the surprise
With the
is,
surprise,
right?
we had yeah.
Just recently we had it. So it's so important to always look for the surprise, and sometimes we forget.
And maybe you could like chime in to like to look to see what the difference is between looking for an answer or looking for a surprise.
Yeah.
What is the difference in your eyes? Should the leader look for the opportunity or the answer that they're looking for? In your opinion, we're just sharing our opinion
Yeah.
here, and it's just an opinion. Or should they look for the surprise,
Yeah.
the unexpected, and be okay with the unexpected, right?
Yeah. Allow the
Mm.
unexpected in the answer.
In
The
the
leader should
answer.
look for the surprise in the
That's
answer.
interesting.
That's interesting. So again, the leader doesn't know the answer. I wish we did.
Well, if I knew the answer, I'd be rich. I'd just buy the lottery tickets,
Yeah.
buy the stock that needs to go up. So when I'm doing this, like I'm making tons of well, tons. I'm making good money, like with our fearless leader over there in the U.S. because, like, I'm surprised every single day. Something's going to happen in the surprise. So I move, I
Oh,
discover.
look, I can
I
afford that now. Surprise, a surprise
it's
is
more fun. Oh, it is.
surprise is
It's
definitely
more
going to be
fun.
more fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I
Mm.
I agree with that
Mm.
100%. So, we're gonna cut it off right
We
here
talk a lot.
because we talk a
Because you've
lot.
been missing out of action for a couple of weeks, and I miss you. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe that's what's
yeah,
going
yeah.
on.
So
I'm Shelley Butler,
I'm Yves Doucet.
and this has been Mindset Monday. Mwah. Love you. Get your workout in. And how are you showing up? Remember, you can continue
Oh,
to talk about this. I'm going to set this as a passive conversation, so you can certainly add to this, and we may come back and kind of expand on
mm.
it next week.
Look at
So
this latest comment.
if we look for an answer, confirmation bias could creep in.
Yeah,
If we are open to the surprise, we learn something new. And
and
that is
that is opportunity.
that is the essence.
Yeah.
That is the essence of looking for something. Yeah, looking for something new. I love that. Not looking for the answer. Mm,
By the way, if you want the meditation on waking up excited, just
yes.
DM us and or me,
Yeah.
and I'll send it to
Yeah. You want
you. Mm.
some meditations. Eve's the guy.
Oh yeah.
Mwah. Love you.